Yo, people, welcome back, Pal Colin. Just another entry into the log today. So, today is Father's Day in the UK, so I thought I'd do like a little Father's Day special. Right? Supposed to do a video on legacy, but I'll probably push that back. It might get done tomorrow, like I did it last week, innit? But I thought about some other points. So, I'm going to add that in. Yeah. But yeah, I've been thinking about something that's been on my mind lately, with it being like Father's Day. Yeah. And I want to share some thoughts about fathers and their role that might be a bit different from what you usually hear, like at least delivered differently and from another perspective, let's say. Okay. So, let me just sip some water. So, daddy issues, yeah, has become a real discussion point over the last, let's say, 5 or so years, at least since COVID. I saw it proliferating online. Yeah, there's a lot more awareness around them. Yeah, I didn't even realize this was a real thing until recently. Yeah, and I saw, examples exhibited in women I've personally interacted with. Do you know, like that? And it kind of just clicked, like, oh, okay, I see what this is now. Do you know, like that? But I don't think we really understand how deep this goes. I mean, we use that phrase, daddy issues, pretty casually, do you know, like that? But when you really start looking at it, the impact is way more complex than we realize. When I look around, I see so many people still carrying wounds from childhood. Boys who grew up not really knowing how to be men. Girls who seem to be constantly seeking validation from men in ways that just aren't healthy. And here's the thing, like, it's not just about divorce or abandonment. Yeah, you can have an absent father even when he's physically there in the house. Do you know, like that? Like, sometimes fathers are present, but they're not really allowed to father and to lead. Now, just speaking personally, I grew up in a two-parent household, okay? But my mum was clearly the leader, yeah? She was the loudest voice, the decision maker, the one I learned to go to first, yeah? The one I learned to go to first if I wanted something. Do you know, like that? Like, my dad was there, but he wasn't really allowed to lead. I wouldn't even necessarily say he wasn't allowed to leave, but it's just like, yo, my mum's got this. Like, if she needs backup, then man's here, innit? Do you know, like that? Like, with the dynamic between my dad and my mum, like, my mum's a year older than him, yeah? And she's just always been a leader since, childhood. Work, she's a leader, in church, she was a leader, yeah? In her own family, like, she's the leader. Do you know what I'm saying? Everyone looks to her. Yeah, everyone looks to her to do things and to get things done. Do you know, like that? So that's just how it's always been, in it. Yeah. And like I said, my dad's probably just thinking like, yo, she's got this. If she needs backup and that, then yeah, man will step in it. Right. But he's like a silent partner in the relationship. But looking back, I can see how this happened. Like, my mum didn't know her own father. Yeah. Her father died when she was like 2 years old. She didn't have a relationship with her father. Yeah. However, she witnessed DV in her mum's new relationship. Okay. So she probably felt like she had to be the strong one, the protector, the one in control. Her own father wounds made it hard for her to trust my dad's leadership. Do you know, like that? Even though he was a good man. At least that's my theory anyway. Like, my dad is probably what most women would want in a husband. Yeah. Like, he's respectable, he's non-threatening, he's quite a chill guy. Do you understand? And he'll provide security. Yeah. So if you're looking to settle down with a man, that's my dad, innit? It's probably the archetype for that. Like, every woman that I know gets on with my dad or loves my dad. Like, my ex-girlfriends and that, yeah, they get on with my dad, innit? They find him easier to talk to. Like, obviously, they don't get on with my mum at first, yeah. Like, my mum is intimidating, but my dad is more chill, he's more laid back. And this was reinforced everywhere I looked. Like, most of my mum's sisters, were single mothers who had to develop what you'd call masculine traits that to protect and provide for themselves and their children. And you gotta understand, like, obviously they would have grew up in the house and witnessed DV as well. Do you know, like that? On my dad's side, the aunt I spent the most time with was also a single mom with those same strong, independent characteristics. Yeah, well before Destiny's Child came on the scene. Now, this really shaped how I understood women and my own role as a man. Yeah, every boy, or let's say young man, has this desire to create and build things. Yeah, and as a stronger sex, it's your duty to protect. Yeah, no one really needs to tell you this. It's instinct. It's like second nature. Yeah, almost as if it's what we were created to do. Do you know, like that? Okay. However, I didn't know it was my duty to protect and provide for a woman when women seemed perfectly capable of doing it for themselves. At least the women that I saw grew up around were doing it for themselves. Do you know, like that? And they weren't complaining about it or anything. Right? Even more telling, like, I never learned how to respond when women are emotional or crying. Okay. Because I never saw any of the women around me do that. Do you know, like that? They were all direct, handled their problems themselves, and kept their emotions in check for the most part, right? Now, these women weren't choosing to be this way, okay? They were forced into it by circumstance. Do you know, like that? But as a kid, I just took it as this is how women are. Yeah. And, just to give you an example, like, I remember my grandma's birthday. It was my grandma's birthday on my mum's side. I think it might have been her 60th birthday or something. And on my mum's side, it's the majority are women. Yeah, they're all girls, they're all females, right? I'm like the first male child in what years, in a generation, in like 25 years or something like that. Yeah, so when I was born, it's quite special for them, innit? Because they don't have boys in the family usually. And then it was like, yo, I think I was asked a question, like, how do you handle being around so many women and that? And at the time, I'm like, yo, it's calm because they don't really act like women, they act like men. Do you know what I'm saying? So it don't feel like anything to me. And obviously everyone started laughing and that. Yeah. And it was kind of funny, innit? But when you deep it, like, it's not funny at all. Yeah, it's actually quite a serious issue. There's something fundamentally wrong with that. Yeah, so it's just crazy to me, right? And this really showed me how father wounds get passed down through generations. Like, when a woman has unhealed wounds, she can end up undermining her husband's role. The kids pick up on who really has the authority, and suddenly you've got another generation growing up without experiencing strong masculine leadership. And this pattern's playing out everywhere. If you look at the numbers, children who grow up without strong father figures show consistently worse outcomes across virtually every measure. Do you know, like that? There's something specific about the father role that is irreplaceable. Yeah, something that goes beyond just having another adult in the house. And this might explain why fathers are particularly crucial. If we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, yeah, you have basic needs at the bottom, psychological needs, and self-actualization, right? Men naturally excel at facilitating basic needs like food, shelter, safety, clothing. Women naturally excel at psychological needs, yeah, social and esteem. Women are more sociable than men. Yeah, they're social creatures. And it makes sense because women weren't created to be alone. Do you know, like that? But when the father isn't around, women have to cover those basic needs first. Do you get? Now, this forces them into a masculine role and prevents them from being able to show up fully as women in those areas where they're naturally gifted. Do you get? Like, you can't reach the areas of emotional and social development if the foundation isn't secure, if those basic needs aren't met. Do you get? And you might say, but that's what child maintenance is for. Okay. But that misses the point completely. Yeah. A check doesn't remove the responsibility, stress, and mental load. Yeah. It just provides some financial assistance. Okay. She's still the one making all the decisions, handling all the pressure, living in survival mode. Do you get? Plus, child support is often unreliable. The psychological burden of being the sole person responsible for provision and protection of that child still remains, even with financial help. And just circling back to child support being unreliable for a moment, yeah, let's just be real for a second. From a male perspective, you're essentially asking a man to fund your lifestyle while still having limited access to his kids, whilst you're potentially dating and getting piped down by other men. Yeah, most men ain't going for that. Do you know, like that? That's cuckold behavior. Man's not on that, right? So you're gonna get resistance from men when it comes to child support, and that's just being real. That's just being honest, and that goes for all men, yeah, regardless of whether they got the money or not to pay child support. Now, looking at this through a biblical lens, yeah, we've moved away from understanding complementary roles. Yeah, as I've said before, the role of a man is to lead, protect, and provide, and to create and build value. Women are designed to nurture, maintain, and preserve value. Do you know, like that? Not better or worse, just different, right? And both are essential. Okay? I had to change my position for a sec because I started to get pins and needles in my leg. Right? So anyway, continuing on. I think, yeah, or I would argue that the damage goes even deeper than just relationships and family dynamics. Okay. I've noticed that people who grow up with poor relationships with their fathers often struggle with their relationship with God too. Okay. Think about it. Throughout scripture, yeah, God is consistently presented as Father. Yeah. Our Father who are in heaven. Yeah. Jesus calling God Abba Father. Right. So if your template for what fathers are like is abandonment, abuse, weakness, or absence, that's going to seriously affect how you relate to God. Do you know, like that? How many times do you hear children say their father is their superhero? Yeah, it's quite often, right? And it happens subconsciously, like they don't even realize they're doing it. Okay. It's not something we teach kids or that they consciously decide, right? It's just this natural, instinctive response to see dad as the protector, the fixer, the one who makes them feel safe. Do you know, like that? You rarely hear them talk about mom as superhero in the same automatic way. Yeah. For example, my daughter, when she was little, if we're around new people, she's gonna cling to me more than she's gonna cling to her mom. Do you understand? Yeah, because she's looking to me for that safety and protection. Do you get? Which is understandable. And this just shows how children are naturally wired to look up to fathers as these larger than life figures of strength and protection. Do you get? It's built into them, right? But when that natural subconscious expectation is broken or never fulfilled, it doesn't just disappoint them consciously, it damages something deeper about their understanding of strength, protection, and ultimately, God. Do you know, like that, right? If your earthly father was unreliable, you're probably going to struggle trusting that your heavenly father, right, will actually be there for you. If your earthly father was harsh and critical, you might see God as constantly disappointed in you. Okay? If your earthly father was absent, God might feel distant and unreal. Do you get? And if your subconscious template for superhero protector is broken, absent, or unreliable, trusting in an all-powerful God becomes so much harder. Do you get what I'm saying? And I've seen this pattern repeatedly. Yeah. People with strong, loving fathers often have an easier time with faith because the concept of a good, protective father makes sense to them. Yeah. But people with father wounds often reject God entirely. Yeah. Or they struggle with feeling like they can ever measure up. yeah, or they can't really believe God loves them, right? And it takes a lot of work to get to that point. Do you get what I'm saying? So when we're talking about custody and family structure, we're not just talking about practical outcomes, we're talking about people's spiritual well-being as well. This got me thinking about something else, right? If fathers are this crucial, maybe we need to rethink our assumptions, okay? Society has always assumed mothers should be the primary guardian when relationships break down. Like, the laws have been set up to give them primary custody by default. Do you know, like that? But clearly, this is not what's best based on the evidence. Okay, think about it. When a single mother is trying to be both provider and nurturer, she's often stretching herself thin. She's working long hours trying to provide, then coming home exhausted and trying to nurture. Do you get? But a single father with custody, yeah, can focus on what he's naturally designed for, providing structure, leadership, protection. And often there's a grandma or aunt, yeah, his mum or his sister, who can step in for that nurturing piece that, the mother would provide. Do you get? And if you look at the stats, children raised primarily by single fathers often do better than those raised by single mothers, as I said earlier. And here's another important consideration. Stepfathers abuse stepchildren at higher rates than stepmothers do. So kids not only do better with father custody, they're also safer if he chooses to bring another woman into the picture, yeah, into the household, right? It's a lot easier for a woman to enter into a man's situation and his household than it is for a man to enter into a woman's situation. Do you know, like that? And it makes you wonder whether our default assumptions are actually serving children well, right? Just makes you wonder. So there's another angle to this that's worth considering, okay? More and more men don't want to date single mothers, yeah, and become stepfathers. It's a thankless job, yeah? Just think about what you're being asked to do, yeah? Invest emotionally and financially in children who aren't yours, yeah? In a household where you'll never really have authority. Yeah, if things go sideways, if things go left, you lose everything, yeah, with no legal rights. Do you get? Yeah. I would hate to be in that situation, yeah. Like, just giving you an example, I was in a conversation with my daughter. I was having a conversation with my daughter the other day, innit? Like, my daughter's she's got chat in it. She talks spicy at times, right? And she was basically complaining that I wouldn't get her in an Uber home. Yeah, she's a very privileged child. Yeah, but I allow her to talk and to express her mind. But then she said something. Yeah, the way she was talking, I was like, hold on a minute. Who do you think you're talking to right now? Like, I had to ask the question, innit? And she quickly changed her tone in it. She clocked on. Yeah, and today she's apologized for how she was speaking. But imagine if that's a stepfather now. She'll be like, yo, you're not my dad. Do you understand? I can see that happening. Yeah? You can see that happening. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, so it's a mad situation to be in. And it creates a real difficult situation for single mothers in the dating market. Yeah, as I said earlier, women weren't created to be alone. So naturally, they're going to want companionship. Do you understand? They're going to want or desire relationships. Do you understand? Right? But let's say, for instance, the father takes primary custody. Yeah. That could actually solve multiple problems at once. Think about it. Yeah. Just think about it. Kids get their father's leadership and structure, in addition to feminine nurturing from extended families, like his sister, his mother, here, or the women in his family. Okay. The father gets to fulfill his natural role without interference. Do you understand? And the mother gets a genuine shot at finding a good husband without the complications of single motherhood weighing her down, and actually gets to show up as a woman 100% of the time. Do you get? It's a win-win situation. Yeah, it's a win-win-win situation. Do you understand? Obviously, most women won't do this, and there's reasons for that, which, I could guess at. I'm not going to go into it in this video, but it's something that, I think more women should consider. Do you get? You have children, especially boy childs, turning into son husbands, right? You have, girl childs turning into best friends because you don't want to be alone. Now, I don't have all the answers, but when I look at, all the evidence, like the statistics, the research, the patterns we can all see, it raises some uncomfortable questions, okay? The evidence is pretty clear. Like, children do better with strong fathers. Father custody often produces better outcomes. Traditional complementary roles actually work. Do you understand? We have more research than ever before showing what creates healthy families and strong societies, because clearly the current situation ain't working. So it begs the question, why haven't the laws changed? Why do family courts still default to maternal custody? Why does our culture continue to attack traditional masculinity and father leadership when we can see society disintegrating around us? Do you know, like that? Yeah. I honestly think this goes beyond just cultural ignorance and stubbornness, right? When you see such coordinated resistance to what obviously works, when policies consistently go against the evidence, when there seems to be a systematic effort, okay, to remove fathers from families and undermine God's design, okay, it starts to feel like something deeper is at play. Do you get? Like, we've spoken about, or I spoke earlier about how father wounds affect people's ability to relate to God as their father. Do you understand? If you wanted to cut people off from God, destroying a man would be pretty effective. Do you know, like that? Break up families, emasculate men, force women into survival mode, and you end up with generations who can't understand what a loving, protective father looks like. Do you get? But yeah, that's what I have to say in this video. Yeah. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your perspective in the comments. All right. Thanks for listening to me think through this. Okay. And, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there who are stepping up and doing the important work of raising the next generation, often against, a system that doesn't value what you bring. Do you understand? Like, there is a legitimate war on men, I would say. Yeah, but I believe we're seeing progress on that front. But it requires, for me, it requires returning to God and like strong men. Do you understand? If we have to lose a generation, we have to lose a generation, innit? Do you understand? But it is what it is. Pel Cullen, till next time. Yeah. Till next time, bless, love. Hope you all have a blessed week.